Voices screamed and cried out their surprise as the thick green liquid showered over the people in the front rows. "Stop it! Help! Somebody turn it off! It stinks!" Chris froze in horror, staring as more and more of the disgusting substance poured from her dummy's gaping mouth. A putrid stench, the smell of sour milk, of rotten eggs, of burning rubber, of decayed meat rose up from the liquid. It puddled over the stage and showered over the front seats. Blinded by the spotlight, Chris couldn't see the audience in front of her, but she could hear the choking and the gagging, the frantic cries for help. "Clear the auditorium! Clear the auditorium!" Mrs. Berman was shouting. Chris heard the rumble and scrape of people shoving their way up the aisles and out the doors. "It stinks! I'm sick! Somebody help!"
You can't scare me, not with the basement of botany. Maybe a sentient dummy calling all
Boo-dudes!
And dudettes.
Welcome to Calling All Creeps. I am your host, Matt, here with my co-host, Dave.
It's me. What's up?
Hope y'all are doing well in the new boo year.
I'm booing it.
How are you, Dave?
Pretty okay.
It's good?
Pretty okay.
Yeah?
It's a little rough morning.
Yeah?
It's a little hungover.
You want to talk about it?
No.
Okay. Me neither.
We discussed earlier.
Yeah.
But we're ready and excited because this is the most exciting and definitely the best book we've read so far.
Yeah.
I think it's leaps and bounds ahead of every other book.
Yeah.
To me. This
Yeah.
one rules.
How did you like this? How are the chops in this book compared to the Christmas special? 12 Screams of Christmas.
12 Screams? They're really different stories.
Yeah. But just his...
The chops alone,
Yeah.
This one felt like he really put a lot into it.
Yeah.
Like, it's different enough from all the other stories. It doesn't follow the same guided path that he does for all of his different books. Of course, there are the jump scares, and
Sure.
there's the misdirection of who's a real one that's doing the bad guy stuff, and that happens in this book, but it's fresh.
It's well thought out. Even the misdirection is better than in the other books.
Also, the origin of both of the villains, or if you can even call them that, or even say that there's two villains, he keeps you guessing through the entire book.
Yeah.
You know what the book's about just by the title, which I don't think we've said yet, but you guys clicked on it. You know. It's
You know what's happening.
Night of the Living Dummy.
Night of the Living Dummy. This is the one. This is the figurehead for the series.
Book. I mean, with the movies, you know that Slappy is the main character of both movies.
Yeah.
Slappy is the mascot of Goosebumps,
Yeah.
which is sad because we lost Curly.
R.I.P. Curly.
R.I.P. Curly.
He pops up now and then, just mostly on the collections.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's
I
really...
mean, he was a surfing, pink mohawked
He did a lot of stuff.
skeleton with little Benjamin Franklin
He
glasses.
did have Benjamin Franklin glasses. Very cool.
Also, he had a little neckerchief, like he was a Boy Scout.
Oh, yeah.
But his dick was flopping out because he had only a little neckerchief.
He had
That's
a
all
full-fleshed dick. It was not bones. The rest of him was bones, and he had a man's penis.
Yeah, but he was ready to.
Yeah.
Bone, that is.
He was.
So let's go time and place. Let's dive into May of 1993.
Ooh, I like it. It's getting warm.
So, the song was two different songs that were split the month. It was "Freak Me" by Silk.
Don't know what that is.
I don't know either, but it sounds like something that's good for love making.
Do you think when we go through these and I'm like, I don't know what that is, that listeners get mad because they know what it is?
Maybe. They're probably going to turn this off right now and go to Spotify or Apple Music and listen.
Tweet at us, hashtag, I know that tune. You're a jerk.
I imagine that song is just, instead of bass or any sort of drums or percussion, it's just the slapping of moist thighs.
And like plucking of like an upright bass string.
And like, songs then, it would just be a guy that's like, oh, freak me.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's set to a dance beat.
With like the...
Yeah.
More wet, but like because of fuck.
Yeah.
All right, anyway. Other song was That's the Way Love Goes by Janet Jackson.
Okay. Cool.
Movie, whole month, Cliffhanger by starring Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
It's just an action movie.
Yeah.
Then on May 11th, Garth Brooks won a Country Music Award That's not important at all, but once I saw the name Garth Brooks, completely forgot that guy existed.
True, me too. Also, as you were speaking it, I thought you were going to talk about Garfield.
Really?
I just heard Gar and I got excited, but this is much less exciting.
This is more exciting. On May 13th, George Brett hit his 300th home run.
What team did he play for?
I don't know, but this is what's exciting about it. I learned this from another podcast and from digging online. You need to look up George Brett on YouTube.
Oh, I was going to
You
do
were
it
about
right
to.
now.
So George Brett, of course, this great baseball player, he went back to his team to go and coach the younger guys. He came back one day, and they had him mic'd up for ESPN, I think, or some sports thing. So he's talking, and he goes and starts talking to the current young players, and that's where he describes the time he was in Las Vegas and went to an all-you-can-eat buffet of king crab legs and shit his pants. And he describes walking through the the hotel with shitty pants and asking his buddy to come up. And he says, I remember this quote. He's like, yeah, I'm good to shit my pants at least, once a year. So George Brett shits his pants once a year.
Good for you, dude.
And somebody that was working that job thought it was funny and stole that, and it went viral online.
Wow.
And you can still find it online.
I'm going to look it up for
George
sure.
Brett shit his pants.
This is fun. I was expecting, because everyone's a monster and you hear that everyone's a monster so much now, like men in particular, I thought he was going to pick up some like horrible misogynistic like sex fucking, I don't know.
Nope, just got a full loaf in his pants.
Okay.
He said it was running down his the legs and stuff.
Listen, we're all human.
The cool thing about this video is he was really angry after, but when he's telling these guys, he sounds very prideful. He's very excited about it to let them know.
So he's not making himself vulnerable. He's cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for him.
He says it in the same way that's just he'd be like, I hit 300 home runs.
Yeah.
But it's the same way it's just like, good to shit my pants at least once a year. So check that out, viewers.
As I crossed home plate, I shat my pants harder than I ever have. It blew a fucking hole through the back of my pants.
I just needed a little more traction on the slide, and I slipped right through my diarrhea, and that's how we won the World fucking Series.
And I high-fived all my homies with shit running down my legs.
No, but seriously, check it out.
Yeah, I will.
It's on YouTube. Okay. Also, final episode of Cheers was on May 20th.
Aw.
Iconic final episode
Cute.
of an iconic show.
Yeah.
Okay, some facts about the book. RLS, or Buddy,
Our dude.
got the idea from reading The Adventures of Pinocchio as a child.
Right.
Also, there's a 1945 British anthology of horror. It's a movie, bunch of different short stories, which you know he likes because he loves Twilight Zone. It's called Dead at Night. And he took, apparently there was a dummy in that, and it inspired it as well.
That's cool.
Not only that, but something I was surprised by, but we discussed this earlier.
Yeah.
This book never was made into a TV episode.
Yeah. Really shocking.
Well, it surprised a lot of people, too, because we think of Night of the Living Dummy 2 as Night of the Living Dummy 1, because that was one of the biggest episodes of the show.
Yeah, right.
Hands
because of Night of the Living Dummy in general. Like, just Slappy became, he's the central figure of the series.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, he looked a little different in that as well. So, funny thing is that R.L. Stine has never listed Child's Play as
I wanted to talk about this.
an inspiration for this book.
Yeah, and Child's Play was 1988.
So Child's
before
Play
this.
1 through 3 was 1988, 1990, and 1991.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's 1, 2, and
So there's
3,
a
and
whole
this is
series.
1993.
Right.
So that was the core titles before it got goofy,
Yeah.
which was early 2000s when they brought it.
Because I was going to say, and not to jump the gun here, but in that movie, the doll, what are they called in that movie?
Good Guys?
Good Guys, yeah. The good guy doll does a lot of the same things that Slappy does.
Yes.
Like, in terms of inflicting violence on whoever they're with.
But the TV series, the production staff leaned into that when they made the episode, because you'll notice that Slappy in the show has red hair, unlike the book where they talk about the dark brown.
Yeah.
Not only that, but in the episode, he also says "Let's play" a lot, which is a direct homage to Chucky. That's like his little.
And then when a woman
slogan.
picks him up, he says, "Let me go, bitch!" and he bites her and runs away with a knife.
Yeah. Those movies scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Oh, for sure. Me
That's
too.
why I had such a problem with Night of the Living Dummy as a book.
It's horrifying.
I realized I never read this as a kid because I was too afraid.
Yeah, it's even now. We were talking about this before. It's a good execution, and I think we like it more because the conceit is scary. Like the inanimate object coming to life that like looks like a person is horrifying.
And Chucky always scared me more than like Jason Voorhees or anything like big hulking guys, because if Jason's coming at me, you see him from a distance and he's there.
Yeah.
But if I'm like hiding in my house, like Chucky could just pop out of my bathroom cabinet and stab me in the dick 100 times.
Yeah. And you don't have to convince anybody that like Jason's coming after you. Like you don't have to like in this book they have to plead with their parents like you don't understand like
it's alive. And
yeah.
he can just
I will. He
down,
just turns off. Yeah.
plop down.
So that's frightening. Only you know that he's going to come and kill you.
Yeah.
And nobody else will ever know about it.
And that's scary. So that's really scary. Also, people say it's a possible inspiration. There's a dummy named Willie in Twilight Zone, and we all know a lot of books are inspired from Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Funny thing, when they reprinted the cover for, I think around the 2000s, they took away the tilt of Slappy's head on the front. He's at an angle. And then after that, all the books appear looking head on.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine is angular.
So it's like when you go on Instagram, you know, they have that thing where it like angles it and like spins it.
Yeah.
And they basically did that.
Right.
Interesting thing to do. 2008, they reprinted the book because Revenge of the Living Dummy came out, which was a Horrorland book. The original book description on the back has an error, which you have the original.
Yeah. So it says on the back, it says, no, I won't read the whole thing. There's a part where it says, but Chris is jealous of all the attention her sister is getting. It's no fair. Why does Lindy always have all the luck? Chris decides to get a dummy of her own. She'll show Chris. Right, so it should say
Lindy.
She'll show Lindy, yeah.
Which, it's the back of the book, man. Come on, Scholastic, get on it.
Right. There's a team of editors that went through 135 pages, and they didn't get the blurb on the back of the book.
And this is the biggest book in the series.
Exactly.
Next to maybe Haunted Mask is above this, but at this point, I don't think so.
Right.
Haunted Mask is big, but this is bigger.
Yeah.
To me, I think. I thought this was awesome. So, as of now, Slappy appears in 30 books, 3 TV episodes, 2 feature films, 5 video games, and there are 2 more books that are slated to come out for 2019.
Jeez. Well, now they have the Ghost of Slappy. He has his own series.
Slappy World, yeah.
Slappy World, yeah.
But the interesting thing about this, those 30 books don't include like Slappy World or whatever. There are a bunch of books in Horrorland and other R.L. Stein things where Slappy just makes a cameo or appears in the background.
Weird.
Also, there's like How to Draw Goosebumps, which was on there. And things. And also, they use him. There's comics. I didn't even go into the comics, which they have.
A whole different
Slappy's
thing.
really the main character.
Yeah.
I saw one where it's about how like Slappy makes an app that like when you put it on your phone, he like controls you and you're a slave. So.
Oh boy.
But yeah. That's a lot. So 30 books feature Slappy. And some of them, he's the narrator, the main character for Slappy World. So you're in his head, which is cool. We'll get there someday.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm actually curious about those books.
Yeah. I follow the Reddit. I'm always on the Reddit looking around. And there's a lot of dedicated people that are always going through and describing the series. And it sounds good. It sounds fun. Horrorland sounds fun.
I scoffed originally at the book we read for Christmas. I was like, I don't want to read a new Goosebumps book. The part of the thesis of this podcast is to sort of live in nostalgia and, you know, walk in our 90s shoes again. But it was good.
It was really good.
So
still doing it. RLS is still doing it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive in.
Cool, yeah. Let's talk about that plot.
Let's plot it.
So
I wrote a lot for this plot.
I didn't write anything.
You didn't write anything?
No.
Good.
But I can take you through it.
Okay.
I mean,
let's do it.
I'll start it.
Let's do it.
So we got 2 twin girls.
We do.
Chris and Lindy.
Mm-hmm.
They're chilling. They're hanging out. They go outside to play. They're walking through their neighborhood. And there's a house that is being built. So it's under construction. They go in the house. They check it out. They're doing stuff in there. What are they doing in there?
They're figuring out what rooms are what.
Right.
Because they played on the foundation for a while and they'd always hang out there. And now that the walls are up, they're like, interesting. Let's see what they did.
Yeah.
So.
And there's a weird, like, RL leans into this squirrel that's in the chapter 1. Did you see this?
Yeah.
It's like it's mentioned multiple times. Like there was a squirrel that was following them, and then like when they walk out, it's like the squirrel like leapt and did some gymnastics. And he really talks about it too much.
He does do the little scare of like you hear tiny feet slapping
yeah.
around inside the house.
Slapping around.
Turns out it was the squirrel trying out
squirrel the whole
tap
time.
shoes.
What I do like about chapter 1 is that it gets right to it. By the end of chapter 1, there's the dummy.
Mm-hmm.
So they go outside. There's a dumpster, because they're building something.
And they tore down the house that was there originally.
Right. So they root through the dumpster, and they find the dummy.
Yeah.
And they think it's like a kid's body.
I was going to say, best jump scare yet.
Yeah.
Real dark. So it's on page 9 and 10, and Lindy pulls Slappy out of the dumpster and says, then, slowly, she pulled something out. She started to hold it up. Its arms and legs dangled down limply. Chris could see a head with brown hair. A head? Arms and legs? Oh no! Chris cried aloud, raising her hands to her face in horror. The chapter 2 starts with, a child?
A child, question mark?
Chris uttered a silent gasp, staring in horror as Lindy lifted him out of the dumpster. She could see his face frozen with wide-eyed stare. His brown hair stood stiffly on top of his head. He seemed to be wearing some sort of gray suit. His arms and legs dangled lifeless.
Yeah.
And then she was like, is he alive? And even pretty dark, Arlstein. He said,
is.
Lindy was cradling the poor thing in her arms.
Ugh.
Is he alive?
And
She says, no, not alive. A dummy. And then they're like, oh man, I thought you fucking killed that kid. Which happens twice in this book.
it does happen twice.
Just
the
funny.
second time it's real, though. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But a kid dies in this book.
The kid does die.
He gets rolled over by a steamroller.
Okay, let's not give everything
Yeah, I
away
know.
yet. But there,
We'll cut that out.
there's a steamroller.
There is a steamroller.
We don't have to cut anything.
No,
out.
I'm not gonna.
Don't cut anything. Misdirection, my friend. Okay, so you're doing real good.
Cool. So they find
Let's keep going.
The dummy in the dumpster, and Lindy is going to keep it and is going to be a ventriloquist.
And she names it,
She names it Slappy.
which I never knew why it was named Slappy.
It's just,
The
isn't it
origin
just,
story rules.
it's just like, because I'm going to slap you in the face, you idiot. Isn't
And
that?
then she just slaps her sister
Yeah.
with a doll.
Right. With the doll hand, just like open palms her.
He says, why Slappy? She says, come over here and I'll slap you.
Yeah. So she's hamming it up right away.
That's
She
why
really
my
wants to
dummy is
be-
named Fisty.
My dummy's named Slippery. I have another one named Stinky. And they keep me company at night. I have a small bed for them next to our bed.
That's cute.
And yeah, I mean, my wife is divorcing me because of it. But
Funny thing, as I'm afraid of like weird dolls that do stuff, my brother did decide to buy me the Slappy with glowing eyes for Christmas. It's sitting on the table.
It's sitting on the table with us behind my laptop. Its legs, its feet are on my laptop. It's horrifying.
It's in the very beginning. I had not opened it up. I've had this since Christmas.
Yeah.
I had not opened it up until today when we decided to play with it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of attached to it now that we made some real
It's fun.
spoofs and goofs.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, and its mouth does move, but its face is creepy.
And it's got a big
thought,
donk on it too.
Yeah, it's got a big old donk by request. You can customize its donk.
My brother knew he wanted. He's
Yeah.
like, get my brother the one with the big donk.
16 inches.
Mm-hmm.
But half its height, right? Is it? It's a 30-inch doll.
Something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, spooky. You would think because this is a recent reproduction or something, and it's so kid friendly now. The Goosebumps Empire, I feel like, but this is not okay.
And it looks like the cover.
It does, yeah.
Creepy.
The cover is like darker. This is a
Yeah.
darker wood, but it's fine. So Lindy has her dummy, and now Chris is a little jealous. Lindy's getting some attention. She's actually getting pretty good at her ventriloquist act. So Chris wants a dummy as well, expresses this to her parents. Eventually, her dad goes to a pawn shop, gets a dummy for Chris. So Chris is happy. This is a different dummy, whereas Slappy is dressed in a suit with a little, what's that, a crevasse? What is it? Cravache? What is this?
a corsage.
Corsage.
He's got a crotch on his chest.
He's got a little crotch up here. This dummy, who Chris names Mr. Wood, that didn't take long.
No.
Is dressed like a working man. Is dressed in like flannel, jeans, and sneakers.
Like high tops.
Yeah.
I said it's fitting that she named him Mr. Wood because he's dressed like a fuckboy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Some other things. So she wanted the dummy because the boy she liked looked at her sister.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't say they're identical twins.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They're identical. Did we say that?
Yeah. No. No, we didn't. But they are identical twins. And RL awkwardly describes. Did you see this description where he uses the word "for"? And he says, like, for they were identical in every way.
Very nice.
Yeah, very like Canterbury Tales.
Also, we forgot Lindy is going to be performing at a birthday party because when they're outside,
yes,
she was doing little jokes and some kids loved it.
Yep.
She was performing for her family. Chris wanted her turn with the dummy, and Slappy slapped the shit out of her.
That's right. Well, she does. He does what he does best.
Yeah, man, it's his main move. It's his finisher. And he also in a raspy soy. The fuck am I saying?
In a raspy soy sauce.
In a raspy voice, he says, "Beat it, Chris. Get lost, you stupid moron."
The G-rated insults are so funny.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But this is interesting because Slappy does the whole, I'm not controlling it, I'm not controlling it
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Which we expect because we know the Goosebumps empire. But reading this book, this is where the misdirection starts, and I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Mr. Wood hits the scene.
Yeah.
And this is where I realized we have two dummies at this point, and both of them have generic, creepy horror origins.
Yeah.
So we have Slappy, who was pulled out of the dumpster of an old house that they don't really know the origin of, and they had just finished destroying the basement and pulled everything out.
Yeah.
So why was this dummy thrown out from an old house and thrown into a dumpster?
It's creepy.
Then the other one, it was weird that it just happened to show up in the window, and it was like this old guy, and at first he didn't want to sell it to the dad.
Yeah, which is a Goosebumps trope.
A Goosebumps trope. And then after keep asking and putting the pressure on, the guy decided to sell it to dad.
Yeah.
So we have two separate generic Goosebumps or horror tropes that lead us to these two dummies, and they both go back and forth with acting out or doing things, and because of that, you don't really know where the danger lies.
No, they suggest it's Mr. Wood because Mr. Wood at the end of one of the chapters is like on the floor strangling Slappy. So it's suggested that he's the aggressor, but you don't know. Like they're both very spooky, very creepy, and Slappy was the original one on the scene, and she got creepy feelings from Slappy before Mr. Wood even came around.
Yeah.
So,
and that whole attack and moron thing happened before Mr. Wood even hit the scene.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't really know until.
Well,
can we describe the misdirection? What happens in between?
Okay, so what happens is, so Mr. Wood is Chris's dummy, and she's trying to get good at it, but she really doesn't have the inspiration. She's like, I need to go to the library and get joke books, and Lindy's like, I write my own material, and it's kind of like really proud and shitty.
Oh, right. They're out there with Cody, right?
Oh, yeah,
and
Cody.
She's like, Chris is like trying to rehearse, and is like, is this funny? And he's like, I don't know, kinda.
That scene was really funny because she asked her friend Cody, who just sounds like a teen heartthrob.
Yeah.
And it's subtext that he thinks he was asked there to like probably kiss.
Yeah.
Like he thinks he's touching his first boob, and
Yeah.
she's like, sit down and watch this dog talk.
Poorly. She's not doing well. So she is trying to get better. She's trying to do. So Lindy is doing like birthday parties and stuff like that, and she's making cash money. So Chris kind of wants to do her own thing, and with Mr. Wood can eventually do this school talent show.
Yes.
But But before we get there, all these things are happening with the dummies, and they're in like different situations where you think they're coming alive. Like you'll find them in different precarious situations. They say mean things sometimes, in particular Mr. Wood and Slappy. And then there's a moment where they go downstairs, or Lindy goes downstairs and finds Mr. Wood sitting in a pile of all the groceries that were pulled out of the refrigerator and have now gone bad. And mixed in with all that stuff is Chris's jewelry. And on Mr. Wood's lap is a plate of chicken, which is very funny. It's very funny that his mischief is so G-rated. It's like, fuck your groceries. Yeah. They're on the floor.
It's like they walk by and there was a liquid pooling at my feet. And it's like, sounds like blood. It's milk. Yeah. Which is fine.
Just like, opened the milk.
At this point, Dad is not home. Mom can't take this shit. These are two twin sisters that fight constantly while they're trying to get their own identities. So once Lindy does something, Chris wants to do it. Once Chris gets something, Lindy wants it. There's always trying to one-up each other.
Yeah. So she wants to take the dummies.
Dummies are done.
Yeah.
No more dummies, girls.
But they convince her to allow them to keep the dummies.
They're going to replace all of the groceries with their money. They're going to clean up, and everything will be fine.
Right.
This is when we learn that all of the stuff was a shitty prank that Lindy did.
Yeah. Really drawn out. Wasn't it like page 70 or something you learned this?
It went on for a long time.
I think I marked like page 74 or something was like just after she confessed. So I don't know.
How she confessed is fucked too.
Yeah.
So they lock Mr. Wood in the closet. And because she gets so good at ventriloquist, she throws her voice to make it sound like he's in the closet coming out. And then she's just like, no, you stupid bitch. I've been doing this. I've been ruining your life.
For weeks.
This is the long con. I'm getting nothing out of it. Fuck you.
And their parents are getting divorced and Chris needs psychotherapy.
Yeah. And it's crazy because she went to go put her hat on. And it turns out Lindy took a huge dump in it. It's crazy. And then the pranks were basically like Mr. Wood's not where he's supposed to be. He like was under the bed, or she had to wear special clothes to school one day, and then Mr. Wood was wearing them and like hanging from the door after. And then he beat the shit out of Slappy, and Lindy also played it up, just being like, "Your dummy's evil. Look what he did to my poor thing." And like, also freaking out, but that was all just acting. That was all just a really shitty lie
for like 15 chapters.
Yeah.
So on RL's part, it was pretty good, because by that point I don't expect it to happen. I expect a lot of like, fake shit to happen between siblings. Like the sibling in these books, the one sibling always tries to scare another, and that's always like those false end of chapter jump scares. But for it to happen so late in the book is good misdirection. So after you learn that it was Lindy the whole time, Chris thinks things can go back to normal, but then shortly after that finds in
Mr. Wood's
pocket, a piece of yellow paper, and on the paper is written in nothing, like what Bermudan from like 1,000 years ago. Do you like, what is this? It says like Karopi Madonna Lolo Lama. It's like completely insane. Barack Obama.
It's a list of Hello Kitty character names.
Yeah.
Well, I think this made me think of Evil Dead. Have you seen Evil Dead? One of my ultimate favorites, where they go down and they basically find the Necronomicon.
I don't think I actually have. I'm sorry to say.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Number 2 is my favorite. But
number 2 is also my favorite. That was a poop joke for the listeners.
Everyone's poop joke. So when you read it, basically brings the dead back.
Yeah.
Read this weird thing, and it's some ancient spell that brings Mr. Wood to life.
You mustn't read from the book. Right? It's a throwback to 2 episodes ago.
And perfect timing. It's the chorus concert, and she's the host, her and Mr. Wood.
Oh, that's what it is. Chorus concert, not talent show.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
And this part's insane.
Yeah.
Didn't expect this.
This is really wild. And this is, so let's explain what happens.
I also think this is why it's not an episode. Because this would be a tough thing to pull off.
Yeah. And to put on Fox Kids is a little intense. But so, the chorus show is happening, and Chris goes out there with Mr. Wood. And what is it, Mrs. Berman?
Mrs. Berman.
Mrs. Berman is the chorus teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's very encouraging. She says, Chris, don't be nervous. Go out there. It's going to be fine. They're going to love you. Mrs. Berman is a little overweight.
Yeah.
So she's, trying. She has goals. She's trying to.
It's a new year, new her.
Yeah. So, but she's fine. Everything's fine. And then Chris goes out there, and Mr. Wood. Oh, wait, we missed something. Before this, the Millers come over.
Oh yeah.
So just before the chorus, her parents' friends, the Millers, come over. They have some coffee. They're just hanging out.
And they're old people.
They're older folks, yeah. And they want to see both of the daughters' ventriloquist acts.
Lindy kills it.
Lindy kills it. Yeah, she does great. They applaud for her, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Berman he proposes to her, right?
I'm pretty sure he waits around back to get an autograph on his tit.
Yeah. It's a little problematic.
It is. It's a weird thing to add in.
She's a little young. But so Lindy does really well. Chris goes out there and is going to start her routine. And we should read some of these. Basically, Mr. Wood has a mind of his own at this point. This is after she read the Keropi Madonna words.
So it says, that's a nice-looking dummy, Mr. Miller said quietly. And you're a nice-looking dummy, too.
Yeah. So pretty good dunks. I have to say, I have to give it to Mr. Wood.
Mr. Wood is great dunks.
Yeah. Is that a mustache, or are you eating a rat? He asked nastily. Says they have false teeth. How do you get your teeth that disgusting shade of yellow? Does your bad breath do that? It calls them ugly, old, and stupid, this sort of thing. So the Millers obviously think this is Chris. She's in trouble.
And crying.
And crying, very upset, but is still allowed, just barely, to do the chorus concert.
If I were old people that lived next door and dealt with that, I'd be like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
a little girl makes fun of your teeth and then cries and runs away.
Yeah. It's something.
So you thought that Mr. Wood was dunk champion. Get ready for what he says about Mrs. Berman.
Oh, man.
So Miss Berman announces them, and Mr. Wood leans into the microphone and says, what time does the blimp go up?
Oh, it's so bad.
She says, what? She says, your face reminds me of a wart I had removed, Mr. Wood growled, and then at the startled woman, her mouth dropped open in horror. Chris, if we could count your chins, will it tell us your age?
Chris, that's enough, Miss Berman cried, the microphone picking up her angry protest. You're more than enough. You're enough for two.
If you got any bigger, you need your own zip code.
So Mrs. Berman is appalled, obviously. Everyone is appalled. Some people are laughing.
It's pretty funny.
It's funny, but it gets vicious.
Yeah.
And Chris says, I'm not saying this stuff. And Miss Berman demands an apology. And it says, Mr. Wood leaned into the microphone. Apologize for this! And then it says a thick green liquid came spewing out. First, his mouth opened wide. There's a thick green liquid came spewing out. It looked like pea soup. It spurted out of Mr. Wood's open mouth like water rushing from a fire hose. Voices screamed and cried out their surprise as the thick green liquid showered over the people in the front rows. Stop it! Help! Somebody, turn it off! It stinks!
So Mr. Wood opens up and just magic acts projectile vomits across the entire crowd to the point where they have to cancel the concert and everyone has to run out.
Yeah, he biohazard carrot tops the whole front.
And everyone's like puking on each other, and it's kind of a beautiful scene.
Yeah, it's insane. This suggests to me, so starting here, I was like, is he possessed by a demon?
I was thinking that too, especially because it goes back and forth between Slappy and Mr. Wood. I was wondering if it was a haunting, and that was going to be the misdirection, where the house is haunted and they're just using these dummies as their conduits.
But it seems like this is an Annabelle situation.
It looks like we're full Annabelle.
Oh, yeah.
We're belling.
They're belling, which is terrifying because these are 11-year-olds, so that's hard to deal with. But so this happens, and then obviously their parents are going to take the dummy away. Also, dramatic end of the chapter after Mr. Wood barfs, where Mrs. Berman says, "I'm going to make sure you get suspended forever."
I read this. It's like, you're suspended, and you'll be suspended forever.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's called expelled, bitch.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, I believe, what Mr. Wood said.
Right, and no one would do that, even if you're offended and you've been barfed on. Like, you're
And
not
then
gonna.
he's still making jokes about Miss Berman the way home. He's just like, when she's around, you call me Mr. Flaccid.
Yeah. Could my dick get any smaller? Looking at her, they call me Mr. Wood. How about Mr. fucking No Dick? I don't know. It goes inside. That's see. So their parents take the Mr. Wood away. Or her dad says,
No more dummies.
"We're gonna bring this dummy back to the pawn shop
Monday.
Yeah. But in the meantime, she's kind of stuck with this dummy and she's trying to figure out what to do. She tells Lindy about it, but Lindy's like, "I tried that joke, or I succeeded with that joke. Don't try to pull that on me." This comes to a head when they put Mr. Wood in the closet, and Chris hears the closet door open, stuff like that, and then footsteps go toward the door of her room, looks over, sees Mr. Wood.
She follows a shadow, walking around, and
Yeah.
turns out it's Mr. Wood. And she sees him walking. Mr. Wood blinked, then hissed at her, an ugly sound, a menacing sound. In the darkness of the stairwell, his painted grin became a threatening leer. In her fright, Chris squeezed the dummy's shoulders, wrapping her fingers around the harsh fabric of his shirt. "This is impossible," she whispered. He blinked again. He giggled. His mouth opened, making the grin grow wider. It's really creepy stuff.
Yeah, it is. They get to the stairwell. They have a whole fight there. They fall down the stairs together.
It's this whole action scene of them just beating the shit out of each other.
It's very funny.
And Mr. Wood, he uses descriptions of just like his arm flew up and struck her in the head.
Yeah.
But like Mr. Wood just punches her in the stomach at some point,
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
just beating the shit out of this girl.
It's very funny to picture this because Mr. Wood presumably is like this very dummy here, about 30 inches high. And whenever there's like even in Child's Play, to fight that doll is very funny.
Because they just pick him up and throw him.
Yeah, right. Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And yet still he puts up a fight. It's insane. But he's funny the whole time because he's like, "This is my house now. You have to do what I say."
And he calls them slaves.
Slaves, yeah.
Yeah,
At one point he says, "I'm very unhappy with you two slaves."
Yeah.
Not okay.
Not only that, but he also constantly says, he's like, "Wait, I got my powers. Once I use my powers."
So stupid. Yeah, he says, "You'll regret it. If you do something to me, you'll regret it. I have powers." As all demons say, they let you know, "I have powers."
And it's all the description of this is awesome. His feet are thrashing and she's holding him down.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad wake up and they're like, "He's alive, I swear." And they're like, "I swear to fucking God, get to bed. If anything else happens, you're adopted. I hate you."
That's the frustrating thing is when the parents come down. So Lindy sees this happen because Chris calls to Lindy. Lindy comes and sees that Mr. Wood's alive. But the parents come and Mr. Wood just turns off.
Yeah.
So he's just a, loose, flaccid dummy again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the frustration is you don't have that satisfaction of the parents seeing it, but why would you? So they decide that they have to get rid of this dummy, obviously. What they're going to do is go across the street. There's mounds of dirt. What they can do is dig a hole and just bury this guy. So they lock him in a suitcase.
Yeah.
Which is, again, this is, yeah, of course. Put him, somewhere, I don't know, just zip him up. That's the solution. It's, the fact that he's a threat is very funny.
Yeah.
But also, he's a threat.
He is a threat. And he makes threats.
Yeah.
And that you are my slaves and you will do what I say, or
Right.
I will hurt and destroy everything and person you love.
He says, "I'll kill everybody you love." Yeah.
And he's like, "First I'll start by killing your dog."
Yeah.
He says that.
Which is horrendous.
Yeah.
Of course.
And the dog's name is Barky.
Right. So
Most
lazy.
unoriginal name.
Yeah.
But I wrote down my favorite.
Yeah, it's cute.
A little barky.
But this is the laziness we see throughout. Mr. Wood, like, that's lazy. Barky's lazy.
Well, I like Mr. Wood's name because it shows that Chris is very unoriginal.
Yeah.
We're supposed to know that Chris wants everything to come easy to her and doesn't.
Right.
She doesn't really have a flair for anything. Like
Right,
that.
you're right. She struggles. She wants that joke book. She doesn't succeed like Lindy does.
No.
Yeah. So they take this suitcase. They go across the street. They get a snow shovel. For some reason, they don't own shovels. And they bury the thing.
Yeah.
They come back, or they wake up the next morning, rather, and surprise, Mr. Wood is sitting in the kitchen, all
Covered in
dirty. Yeah, with their mother.
The mother said not to leave the doll downstairs.
And their mother said, "Get out of here!" And their mother was making out with him.
It was real weird.
Yeah.
And then you learned it wasn't mud, but mom's into poop stuff.
Yeah. And you hear a zip, and then mom's head disappears behind the island in the kitchen. And you're like, does Mr. Wood have a dick?
He doesn't, though. It turns
He
out it's
doesn't.
because he chopped her head off.
Yeah, right.
And was just screaming and doing the Xena yell.
Yeah.
And just holding it.
Yeah. So she dies. The next thing that happens, no, she's alive. The next thing that happens is horrifying, though, because their mom does leave. And then
Dad leaves, yeah. And they're
Right.
all alone.
And the dummy obviously starts talking to them again. And so this is where he says, "I'm very unhappy with you two slaves."
And this is the most fucked up Goosebumps moment I think we have yet.
I agree. Absolutely. This is really traumatic.
Mr. Wood makes good on his promise
Yeah.
and attacks Barky.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read from it.
It's brutal. You have
it
to.
says, but the dummy moved quickly. He reached down and grabbed Barky by the neck with both hands. As the dummy tightened his grip, the frightened terrier began to howl in pain. "I warned you," Mr. Wood snarled over the howls of the little black terrier. "You will do as I say, or one by one, those you love will suffer." "No," Chris cried. Barky let out a high-pitched whelp, a bleat of pain that made Chris shudder. "Let go of Barky," Chris screamed. The dummy giggled. Barky uttered a hoarse gasp. And then at the bottom it says, Barky's howl became a muffled whimper as he struggled to breathe.
Terrible.
And they have to fight, and they dive at him and pull until Barky could get free.
Yeah.
But even that, like they say, has trouble like walking away
Yeah.
and getting to the corner to get safe.
Yeah.
Like,
Because the dog was near death.
fucked up.
Again, pets get shit on in these books.
Yes,
Also,
they do.
this dog's called Dumb Dog twice before
Okay.
this. So again, RL hates pets.
Mm-hmm.
So they managed to get the dog free. They kind of fight with Mr. Wood, and they end up going back to the site where the house is being built.
Because there's thunderstorm coming,
Yeah.
and they're bulldozing in the rain for
Yeah.
some reason, which I didn't know you could do.
Right. Those are usually
Also, they must have a good amount of money. They have 2 bulldozers for one lot.
yeah, and 2 steamrollers.
2 steamrollers, that's
Right?
what I meant.
Yeah. I think they have bulldozers too, don't they?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I think there's a lot of shit going on. So they're like,
Yeah,
we're gonna
it's
go
a
over there and do
fucking
something.
Tonka truck display at this person's house.
Yeah, Thomas the Tank Engine rolls into town and carries away Mr. Wood. So what basically they end up doing is, what do they try first?
So first, they decide they're going to throw Mr. Wood under the steamroller.
Yeah. Well, that's successful, but isn't there something else?
No, because Barky runs out, and they have to
that's
let
right.
him go.
Yeah.
To save Barky, because Barky's still freaking out and decides that being dead is better than living with these shitty twins and
Yeah.
their dummies.
Yeah.
So he tries to jump under there. They save him. Then they fight Mr. Wood. They throw him out in front of everything. He dodges the one steamroller, but then gets hit by the other
Right.
one.
It's the scene in a movie where, there's the truck horn and then the person gets
Except
flattened.
steamrollers are really slow.
Yes. That's true. But still, it's satisfying and it works. He gets crushed and there's a little sulfuric green vapor that comes out, which this points again to Demon.
And it forms like a mushroom cloud
Yeah.
of green, and it smells like shit.
It does, yeah.
And another funny thing is that the guy driving the steamroller, which if they just said like, well, job well done, and left, he comes out and he's like, what the fuck? Not again. A kid, not again.
Was that a kid? Yeah, he
He's
takes
like
some
a kid,
convincing.
The kid, and he pulls up the dummy, and they say his face like turns to dust, and they just have this suit or the little fuckboy outfit.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, you kids want this back? And they're like, no. And he's like, great, I'm going to bring it up top and fuck it. I'm like, all right, thanks, guy. He's like, have a good day. It's a thunderstorm.
Wasn't that scene the inspiration for Ernest Hemingway's For Sale baby shoes never worn? I think that's the lore.
I think so.
Yeah, that's the chronology lines up.
It really does.
Yeah.
93 of May?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So they're really excited. Life's good.
Mm-hmm.
They get inside. They're drenched. Just because, they start shooting champagne at each other like it's NASCAR.
They just won the World Series and they're
Yeah.
in the clubhouse.
Yeah, so, Slappy pours Gatorade down them. No, so they get inside and they're wet from the rain and they're like, wow, I feel so much better now that we made that mist fly away and shit.
Yeah. Now that
So,
it went into something else. Now
It's
there's
like-
like a tree that's haunted.
Mr. Wood becomes like a haunted tree. That would be a good book.
Mr. Elm.
Yeah. Like the Giving Tree, but it only gives terror.
Yeah.
So they go upstairs to change, and surprise, Slappy
Slappy.
talks.
Yeah. Says, thank God you got rid of that guy. I thought he'd never leave.
And calls them slaves as well.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. And he says, Slappy, so as she leaned over the chair to grab onto the window frame, because the window was open and the rain's blowing in, Slappy reached up and grabbed her arm. Hey, slave, is that other guy gone? The
Hey,
dummy
slave.
asked in his throaty growl. I thought he'd never leave.
Right. Okay.
So that's our plot, and it brought up a lot of questions, too. Are we supposed to believe that Slappy was alive the entire time? Or is this the
Yeah.
spirit
Of
that
Mr.
went
Wood.
of Mr. Wood into Slappy?
Right. From what he says, it sounds like he is a different entity, right?
It does. But he also is calling them slaves,
Yeah.
and it could be like a tongue-in-cheek joke. It's interesting.
Right.
Because also you have to remember, Slappy does the, moron, hey, moron, and grabs her thing.
Yeah, but you assume
But that could have been the joke.
I thought that Lindy had confessed to that.
Yeah.
So you don't know. This is a gray area, and it's also does RL know, or did he just want a good ending for the book?
Well, that's why I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah.
Because this book leaves it open for a franchise like it became.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't give you much more than any other Goosebumps book would.
Yeah.
You could continue any of the other Goosebumps books we read. They all end with that twist, and the twist is always... It's open-ended every time.
Yeah.
There's always, we could continue and have another Stay Out of the Basement book where
Sure.
the plant dad is, growing throughout the town or something.
Yeah. The only one that didn't really have a cliffhanger was
Mummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
right?
just, went
sort
to
of
bed.
ended. Yeah.
Which is funny because there is sequels to that.
Right. But I found that
Two
nice.
sequels after that. Yeah, it was nice.
I was just like, yeah, let's end it. We told the story. We don't need this.
Yeah.
But not that I don't like this, and I like that there are multiple dummy books because I remember liking those a lot as a kid. But
Again, I was too much of a puss. All right.
cool. So, what did you think was good about this book? I mean, we agree it's a good story. It was executed well. It was scary.
It was scary.
Because, again, the conceit in general is scary.
The description was really good throughout the book of the
Yeah.
dummies, of very specific details that we see.
Yeah.
They always talk about the eyes moving back and forth.
Yeah.
The grins, and they're not anything too crazy because that's just how dummies work.
Yeah.
And dummies are scary as just what
Yeah.
they are. They're horrifying.
I find dolls in general to be creepy and scary, and that's a view shared by many. Yesterday, I was cleaning out, sort of going through stuff that's in my mom's basement. We rent, so we don't have a lot of space for storage, so there's stuff down there. And my sister and I found a box of just dolls, collector's dolls. I don't even remember having them as a kid. I think people might have given them to us, and we just put them away, thinking they'd be worth money, and they're horrifying. We threw some of them out, just whole cloth. We were just get this in the garbage bag, because my sister is just as scared of things as I am, and I was like, no, these are definitely haunted. Let's get them out of here.
You're the worst thing for R.L. Stein. There's all these choose your own adventure Matt
There would
Ryan
be no plot.
world.
Yeah.
It'd be you find a creepy doll. Go to page 2 if you throw it out. Go to page 3 if you do a joke where you pretend to fuck it.
Anything that yeah, that would be the only ending.
Yeah. It would be
and
like,
then I throw it out.
And then it's like, turn the page, you threw it out.
Yeah. I made someone laugh, and then I threw it out because my mission had succeeded.
Yeah.
I
I mean, Matt
be,
was playing with the dummy before, crying.
It's so fun. Like,
yeah, but at the same time, do you want me to leave it here?
no, I don't. Absolutely not.
It's creepy.
My wife came home with a doll that she had, I guess, as a kid, and I got mad at her. But now it's here, and it's been a while, so it's fine.
Has it yelled at you yet?
Not yet, unless it's concocting.
Have you pretended to fuck it yet?
I haven't, because it's like a little like girl doll.
Okay, so step 3, throw it out.
Not okay. The Slappy looks like a grown man. He looks like Mr. Bean.
He looks exactly like Mr. Bean.
So that's fine.
How tall is he?
Like 7 feet.
He's really tall. I'd say he's about 3 feet tall.
Yeah, I think
Almost, give or take.
the box says 30 inches. I think.
You hear that? That's his shoes dancing.
Yeah, I just realized that this is an audio medium because I was like hoping that everyone could see this. It's horrifying.
That's him
That's
clapping.
him clapping. Both his hands are they're palms out. He's ready to slap you in the face.
Oh.
No clenched fists here, as much as we'd like it. Dave is now moving his mouth into the microphone. If you hear that slapping, those are his teeth. Also, he's wearing lipstick.
Yeah, I did. I requested that. Right, you were there.
Who plays Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory?
I'm the last person to ask that.
What's that guy's name? It looks just like him.
It does.
Um,
And that's our new segment: celebrities that look
like Slappy.
dummies.
But yeah. Oh no, but yeah. I was thinking more about R.L. Stein plots that wouldn't succeed if I was involved. It would be like I'd go to a hotel, and the book would be named like The Ghost of St. Mary's Hotel.
Yeah.
It's a Christian hotel, and I only stay at Christian establishments. And I show up, and they're like, the cashier's like, or the the concierge is like, you got to be careful because they say this place is haunted. And I'm like, oh. And then I make my wife and I leave. I cancel the reservations. The book ends because I go to a Marriott.
I like the third book, The Groupon That Matt Decided Against, by R.L. Stein.
Yeah, the day sale that seemed unsafe.
So there's some lighthearted, fun parts of the book. As mean as the jokes are, they're really funny.
They're funny. I mean, it's effective. He has good jokes.
He has good jokes. He's more creative than Dumb Chris, who
Yeah.
sucks. But this is a good joke that the sisters have when they're running through the construction site. It says, "Careful," Lindy warned. "Nails." She pointed to the large nails scattered around the floor. "You step on one, you'll get lockjaw and die." "You wish," Chris said. "I don't want you to die," Lindy replied. "Just get lockjaw."
That's good. That's
and
funny.
that's how you know that Lindy is the showmanship.
Yeah, she's quick.
She's good.
She's quick-witted.
I liked that.
There's some good words used throughout this book. You mentioned the word bleat before when the dog is bleating, B-L-E-A-T. On page 15, he uses the word dejected. That's, for a children's book is pretty good. There is a lot of good description of...
Jewel bedecked.
Oh, they say that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Bedecked.
Bedecked. I prefer that over bedazzled.
Me too.
It's pretty good. Not overused.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of good description of a lot of these creepy experiences Chris has alone. Because Lindy, for a while, is perpetrating them. Mm-hmm. But also a lot of Chris waking up in the middle of the night or getting up and thinking she hears something. And it's always hot. It's always stuffy. It's always uncomfortable. There's like a stifling atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of the night is the most isolating experience you could have, whether you live alone, whether you're with somebody, because the world is sleeping and you're up and you have this consciousness. And this is also, as the lore goes with any spooky thing, it's always middle of the night. It's always like witching hour, that kind of bullshit.
It brings you there too. I mean, the language is really evocative, especially when they go outside at the end, and just about the air and the stillness of 3 a.m. at night. And I remember, I mean, like last night, I got home, it's like 3:30. And it's funny that like I'm reading this now, and I'm reading that saying like, oh, it's 3:30, it's quiet, it's night. It feels different.
Yeah.
Last night it didn't. I got home, I was like, whatever. But I remember me and my one cousin, we used to sneak out of his house and just run around outside and like do things or throw stuff out of the window and then have to go return them at like 3 a.m. And he lived next to a farm, so there was like cows out there and stuff, and we're running around, and like when all there is moonlight.
Yeah.
And that's what you can see by, and
Right.
it's somewhere you shouldn't be, and it's that cool air and the damp grass. Like that's different.
Yeah. And it is quiet. It is still because
yeah.
the world is asleep.
And he does a really good job describing nighttime with somebody sleeping in the room, the light from the window, and a lot of the scenes that we get are the viewpoint of Chris and lit to the point where you're only seeing what is lit by the moonlight, and it's described in that way.
Yeah.
To the point where if only half of Slappy's face is showing, they're only describing that half of Slappy's face
Right.
in the light. So
And it's set up that way because there's a chair by the window that's always open, and the curtains are always sort of flapping in the breeze.
Yeah.
And Slappy or Mr. Wood is there half lit in the moonlight.
always, and atmosphere set
Yeah.
in this book. Really well done.
Well done there. And there's good description. There's on the bottom of page 61, there's a description of Chris's jealousy of Lindy, and it says just 2 sentences. Actually, it's 1 sentence. It says, staring at her sister's jubilant reflection in the mirror, Chris felt a stab of jealousy, which I think is significant because in a children's book, you could just say Chris felt jealous.
Yeah.
All right, and it's the same message, but RL went the extra mile there, and we appreciate it. What else you got? Anything good?
A lot of the descriptions of Slappy early on I really liked. I like this to end the chapter. When she's like, I'm definitely keeping Slappy. She says she stared into the dummy's bright blue painted eyes. To her surprise, the dummy seemed to be staring back at her, a twinkle of sunlight in his eyes, his grin wide and knowing.
Yeah.
The dummies' mouths and their grins and their descriptions are constant throughout the book. They always talk about the grins, the eyes, the painted hair, the face. And it's interesting because those descriptions don't change throughout the book.
Because the features don't
The
change.
features don't change. It's just they describe them again and again and again. And it's to the point where that smile means something. Oh my God, that scared the shit out of me. Your laundry is done.
Oh no, that was the magic beep that makes Slappy come alive.
Oh shit. Gotta stomp
I think
on
he
him.
just blinked.
But the dummy's description doesn't change, but he gives it to us every single time. But situation dictates the feeling and the mood.
Right.
And the repetition of it's awesome.
Yeah, and they ascribe this frightening feeling they have. So they ascribe these actions to the face, but the face doesn't change.
No.
Not until later in the book. There was some bad stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mentioned before, he says they were identical. A lot of the G-rated insults are very funny. I didn't like the dog stuff. On page 78, Lindy says, so this is where I noted it because it was so late in the book that Lindy reveals, hey, I did this stuff. And she says, aren't I brilliant? ! Lindy proclaimed. And that's not a proclamation, it's a question. Not to be pedantic, but you're an author. Page 92, dry as cotton pops up.
Oh, I was going to say that, but you know what? I didn't put that in the bad because we hadn't gotten it for so many books and it's only once in this book. So it's like, I kind of missed it. It's like an old friend popping in.
Last time was like cheese. Say cheese and die, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a few books.
I like when the kids are racist on page 28. I put that in my bad thing.
Wait,
and
what?
it's a weird racism that didn't even really exist.
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking
where they're
about.
like, yeah, we're doing all these Russian and Yugoslavian songs, Chris said. They're so sad. They're all about sheep or something. We don't really know what they're about. There's no translation. So she just decided. It's just like, yeah, those fucking sad Russians and Yugoslavians who...
wearing their winter coats, just sitting around the
Fucking
fire. Yeah. Wishing they had beans to eat.
Another funny thing I liked was page 33, where Arlstein describes what Chris does with her jewelry collection. Lindy has no interest in the stuff, but Chris could spend hours trying on the beads, fingering the dozens of little charms, running her fingers over the plastic bracelets, jangling the earrings. Her jewelry collection always cheered her up. I just wrote, R.L. Stine pretends he knows what girls do with jewelry.
Yeah, it's like weird, inappropriate erotica with jewelry.
But it makes no sense. Like, what do you do with your jewelry? Do you just sit down and jingle them?
I just touch it. Yeah, I just run it through my fingers.
Chib, do you ever sit down with your jewelry and just like jingle them and rub them?
Depends on the jewelry.
Okay.
Sometimes you just like run it through your fingers.
Oh, okay.
Some of them have beads that feel nice.
Do you ever finger the charms? Okay, it depends on the charm. All right. So
her
I stand
nickname for
corrected.
me is Charms.
Oh.
Yeah. There is one point. It says Lindy is really especially good at B's and M's in her ventriloquist act.
I know where this is going.
Do you think she's like really leaning into the bowel movement material?
Probably.
Talking about Slappy shit in his pants and Lindy.
I gotta go make mulch.
Oh, well done. We don't even need to elaborate on that.
Ha-cha-cha-cha-cha.
Ha-cha-cha! Take a whiff of that, doll.
I love once Lindy becomes like really popular with her acts, she starts talking like an old vaudevillian idiot.
Yeah, for
She's
sure.
like, over at Alice's, Lindy told her, sitting Slappy down in the chair beside Mr. Wood. Some kids were over and I practiced my act for them. They laughed so hard I thought they'd split a gut. When Slappy and I did our rap routine, Alice spit her chocolate mick out of her nose. What a riot. Also, the rap routine?
I can only surmise what that could be. But you're right. Yeah, she's like, pretty soon I'll be on the Late Show.
Me and you, Slappy, heading to the top of the charts.
Heading to the top of the chart. See, we'll be there before you know it. Lickety split.
Other funny thing I thought was that R.L. Stine totally just stole the descriptions of old people from the past book that we read from Let's Get Invisible about how, like, when you've been married for 100 years, I guess you start to look the same.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same paragraph from that book.
Right.
But that book
describe
sucked.
the
I'd rather
Millers.
it be in this book.
Yeah.
So let's just say that it sucked in Let's Get Invisible, which I said I liked it last episode.
It's better this time.
So think that sucks then, it's better now.
Yeah.
Because it's a better book.
Plus,
around
Mr.
it.
Miller had a mustache.
He did. It looked like he was eating a rat, so I heard from a friend.
I think that's all I got.
I don't know why I hate it when people say frightened.
Oh, when they say, like, I'm frightened.
Yeah, you can say they were frightened, and that's cool, but I'm never going to be like, I happen to be frightened.
Right. Especially when you're young and to your sister in super casual conversation, you're going to say, I'm scared.
Lindy, please. Chris pleaded. I'm frightened. I'm really frightened.
Right.
I don't know. Dry as cotton returns. And this is another thing. It's kind of ridiculous, but on page 120, they say that Mr. Wood's hair is matted with dirt. But the whole book, they talk about how it's just wood painted.
It's just hard, yeah.
Yeah. So he forgot
matted
that the hair wasn't.
Implies,
I guess, yeah.
something else.
But I mean, we kind of jumped through all the really good stuff. I had a lot of really, really good things. There was a very good authentic scare. This is chapter 14. My favorite description of somebody being frightened in all of R.L. Stine, and it's when I think it's when Mr. Wood's calling to her from the closet, and it's fake.
Yeah.
She says, "No," Chris shrieked, feeling herself lose control. "It wasn't a dream. I'm so scared, Lindy. I'm just so scared." Suddenly, Chris was trembling all over, and hot tears were pouring down her cheeks. Lindy stood up and moved to the edge of her sister's bed. Something horrible was going on here, Lindy. Chris stammered through her tears. "And I don't know who's doing it," Lindy whispered, leaning over. And I know who's doing it, but like, it's the breakdown point, and just the hot tears, and like she's just so afraid she doesn't know how to react, and I really liked that. And that
would be day 2 of a haunting for me. I'd break down and I would say, you know what actually H-horrible means?
What?
It actually means something.
What does it mean?
It's horny horrible.
I never knew that.
Yeah, just so you know.
It's good for me to know.
She's confused at this point.
I also wrote that the action was really well written at the end. You were able to follow the fight. Yeah. Only downside is that tackled and leaped are pretty much the only verbs used later in the book.
And there are no backflips.
But it took them 20 years to get backflips into these books.
He needed to get it special to do it.
And then I just have a lot of Mr. Wood's return and the scares and stuff like that. And again, I just love his description of these dummies.
Yeah.
It's the same description, and it's great.
Yeah. It's creepy every time.
Creepy every time in a new light.
Yeah.
So, hats off to RLS. We love you.
Well done. We can see why this is the premier book in the series. Although I maintain my favorite is Haunted Mask.
Okay. We haven't gotten there yet. I remember reading Haunted Mask as a child. Weird enough, the only ones that I remember reading 100% book in hand reading as a child was The Headless Ghost. Okay. I wrote a book report about it. That's why I remember. Nice. Haunted Mask, Revenge of the Garden Gnomes.
Oh yeah.
The Lawn Gnomes.
The Lawn Gnomes.
And Attack the Mutant. Those are the ones that I remember the most having and reading. So, right. I don't know. But so let's do our thing.
Let's do it.
Spooks and Scares.
Spooks and Scares. What do you got?
Best Dressed.
Oh, and alternate
titles. Yeah. My spook and scare was, I have two here. I don't know which one I marked though, so I'm just gonna go with the one I marked.
Sure.
I think we talked about it. I really liked. Well, we already discussed it, so maybe we'll go with my other one. When Mr. Wood is just trying to leave the house, and it's the official time that he's walking on his own. It's not her touching him, and he just looks up at her and hisses.
Oh, right. No, that's
which I said before. Mr. Wood blinked, then hissed at her an ugly sound.
Yeah.
I also but you're a dummy, she squealed. He giggled again. So are you, he replied.
Yeah.
Going back to the joke he made with the old man.
Right.
Says his voice was a deep growl, like the angry snarl of a large dog.
Yeah.
You can't walk, Chris cried, her voice trembling. The dummy giggled an ugly giggle again. You can't be alive, Chris exclaimed.
Yeah, he really leans into the fact that his voice is horrible.
And it's just this guttural, low, just this.
It's like, I fucking got you and I'm going to eat your soul.
It's so evil.
Yeah.
And it flips the switch immediately.
Yeah.
From before where it's just like, hey, moron. And this time he hisses. She grabs him and he hisses at her.
It's humorless.
Oh, that was a good spook and scare.
No, that's good.
There were so many good scares in this book.
There were.
Even the fake scares, which are usually dumb, are awesome in this book. What about you?
Mine is predictable. It is the Barky attack, which you've already read.
Oh, yeah.
It just got me. There are a lot of effective scares with the dummies here, but just it goes on for pages, and the dog really struggles and suffers and almost dies.
It goes through 2 chapters.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It ends a chapter, and you're like, phew, hopefully we're going to jump. Nope, right back into it.
Yeah. It's toward the end of the book. It's like page 126, 127. But when it says Lindy dragged the dummy to the floor, but his wooden hands held a tight grip on the dog's throat. Barky's howls became a muffled whisper as he struggled to breathe. The dog must die. When he's finally let go, it says Barky dropped to the floor wheezing. He scampered to the corner, his paws sliding frantically over the smooth floor. I mean, you just feel so bad. The dog doesn't know what's going on.
I'm struggling.
So there's that. But yeah, there are a lot of good moments you could pick in this book.
So who's your best dressed?
My best dressed is Mr. Wood, I think. I mean, you could go with the Millers, you can go with Mrs. Berman, but I think just the difference of Mr. Wood versus Slappy. It says the new dummy, Mr. Wood, wore blue denim jeans and a red and green flannel shirt. And instead of the formal-looking shiny brown shoes, he had white high-top sneakers on his feet. Also, earlier on the page it says, "Oh, he looks just like Lindy's dummy, except his hair is bright red, not brown." So, I don't know. Cool. He looks like a little fucked up carrot top.
I like that.
I like it. It's cool.
Uh-oh.
You're not wearing white high tops, my friend.
Right now I'm wearing green and burgundy flannel jeans, and I have red hair. Oh, fuck. See, mine is Alice.
Alice, is the friend that pops up for a moment?
Yeah. And she's dressed pretty slutty for a preteen. It's just the description's weird to me. Okay. Alice was a tall, skinny girl with straight black hair down to her shoulders, a snub nose, and a pretty heart-shaped mouth. Oh, no. Yeah, that's terrible. Weird. She was wearing white shorts and a bright blue midriff top. Ooh. What's a midriff top? Is that where your belly's showing?
Your belly's exposed, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah, it's real creepy. That's just being like, oh, her mouth is shaped like this, and I can see her belly. So that made me maybe not the best dressed, but just the weirdest.
The weirdest. It was notable, and that was her only appearance.
Yeah.
Alternate title.
Fuck. You go first because I have no idea.
I'm gonna lean in on Mr. Wood here because I like the stark difference where Slappy is dressed in a suit with a tie, and Mr. Wood is like the working man's Tommy. So he's wearing like a flannel and jeans and sneakers.
Yeah.
So I would do something like The Rise and Fall or The Ballad of Spruce Springsteen. And I think that would work.
Can I just steal yours then and do the gross one?
Sure.
Night of the Living Cummy.
I was gonna say it, but I was like, I'm gonna throw a little curveball this time.
When I went to okay, so only thing left, we got to give our Goosebumps death to a
a lovely listener.
Did you find one?
No.
This is where we're probably gonna have to cut because I need to find it.
That's fine.
Title 5 stars. Grundlebumps.
Grundlebumps. I mean, right up our alley, right?
This podcast contains the two things I love most: Goosebumps and adults using humor a 12-year-old thinks is funny. However, everyone knows that Welcome to Deadhouse is way better than Return of the Mummy. Really, though, these guys are funny and give an in-depth look at the actual writing styles of R.L. Stine. They are obviously very intelligent, but not one of those smart people who think they can't use inappropriate humor. Keep up the good work. I wish you would review the episodes as well. Steve G.
Steve G, you really captured what we're all about.
I don't, and the thing too, we're trying to figure out who this is. If you know us, I can't place which Steve this is. This might just be somebody on the internet.
Yeah.
Who is now my new favorite thing on the internet.
It's fantastic.
Sorry, porn.
I'm going to grundlebumps.com from now on.
We got to buy that domain.
Steve, don't touch that domain. That's ours.
The more I think about it, Grundlebumps probably is going to bring you to an STD website.
What if we just make it like normal, like softcore porn, like ladies in bras, like a JCPenney catalog?
Ladies in bras.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grundlebumps.
Okay, so you want to give him a death?
Sure. So, Steve, I'm thinking, look, your name is Grundlebumps. One day, you wake up and something is itching you. You have a problem where it's so inflamed and it's bothering you so much that you can't stop scratching. And you're a person. You have to go through your day, go to work, sit in a chair, whatever you do, maybe it's an office job and you got to sit on that old grundle all day. What I'm getting at is your grundle is bumpy. Right? So that could be okay. Maybe there's just some sometimes you have hair follicles that are a little protruded, and that's fine. In your case, it's not. So you go to your general practitioner. You say, I have an itch and it's between my balls and my asshole. He says, you have to take off your pants. I have to look at your grundle. Which is the medical term for the space, the Listerine strip sized space between your balls and your asshole.
Listerine strip sized space.
I mean, try it. You could, maybe it tastes good. Maybe it's
melts
minty.
in your mouth.
Yeah. So Dr. Shitfarter is taking a look at your grundle and he says, these are very pronounced bumps. We have to remove them or else they're going to get infected. You're going to have worse problems. Your dick's going to fall off. Your butthole's going to explode. We got to get this taken care of. He says, we can do it right now. So he injects a local anesthetic. He calls in a nurse. It's actually a medical student. And he says hey, do you mind if the medical student just watches? Is this okay? And you're like, I guess. They're going to take care of it, right? So you're feeling okay because you're not really feeling what's going on. What's weird is Dr. Shitfarter, I think that was a different name before. Dr. Shitfarter takes out, you think it's going to be I don't know, a scalpel, something like that. He takes out a small but very real chainsaw and just saws you in half. Now, the good news is that your bumps are no longer a problem. The bad news is that he cut you directly in half, and now, you're fucking dead.
Okay.
Thanks for the review, and you're great, Steve G.
Steve, I'm going to simplify. Mine's a little different. Steve, I love your review. You decide to get reviewed in a special way. You go to a psychic. And the psychic gives you the curse, actually, because it turns out it's one of them witch psychics.
Uh-oh.
It's all the rage now. It's a gypsy warrior.
Yeah.
And the witch psychic says to you, if you die in the game, you die in real life. And you're real scared until you figure out that the game is Monopoly. And you can't die in Monopoly.
Oh, shit. You can just
only
buy a
become
lot of
real
properties.
poor. And then you realize the perks. Every time you pass go, which is like, I don't know, like any sort of go, like a green light, I guess, you get $200 in your pocket. It's real good.
Pretty good.
Everything is fine until one night you try to pee and you can't. Mm-hmm. And you look down at your wiener and it's a thimble.
Oh, man.
You get real concerned and you blink and it turns back into a wiener. And you're like, in a real long, great, handsome wiener that you have, like normal. Like your normal, anyone who writes a review like that as a handsome
Very
wiener.
good, normal, big wiener.
I wouldn't say normal. A normal wiener would imply that it's normal. This is above average wiener.
It's a big, smelling good wiener.
It's a top 10 wiener. It smells like your favorite Yankee candle.
Pine.
After loving your wiener, you fall asleep. And you wake up and you are a steamboat.
Oh, no.
Like
he became a steamboat?
You become a steamboat.
Not alive, just a steamboat.
Just as a big metal steamboat in your bed.
Okay.
And that's what happens.
Yeah.
You're a steamboat now. You're a metal steamboat.
I think we are all familiar with loving our wieners. If you know what I mean.
What does that have to do with it?
Just that's what you said.
I know, but is that a segue?
No, I just needed to say it.
Steve G.
Steve G, you're the man.
You're the man, Steve.
Thanks for the 5 stars.
If you want to die at the end of our next Goosebumps,
and why wouldn't you?
And why wouldn't you give
why
us a
wouldn't
review?
you want me
rate
to
us?
spend 2 minutes talking about something based on the most obvious thing I could find, which is your username? Then yeah, do it.
All right. Well, I guess that's that. For,
wasn't his username. It was the title of the
title,
review.
Grundlebums, yeah.
Whatever I see there, I'm going to use.
Okay.
Be prepared.
3 deaths on our hands already.
Yeah.
And we're ready for more. So, all right. Boo dudes.
Boo dudes to you, and enjoy your January. I look forward to seeing you on Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Don't be a dummy.
Don't be a dummy.
Just get
all covered in cheese.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.